The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
Ganja my meditation, ganja my brain. Ganja we take away my stress and strain. Ganja my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away my stress and pain. Ganja my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away the stress and pain. Ganja is the medication, ganja is the cure. Police of them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me essence and they make me feel pure. 100 ways to call it, we need bring it on tour. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking another one around you.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Ganja News Update for this Monday, April the 27th, 2026, here on NOK Network, and we are at episode 164, folks, and this is the video podcast, news podcast, focused on cannabis news being reported in mainstream media. And as always, I'm joined by my amazing joint host right on over here, Tara Simpson. And we've got some big news for stories tonight. But you've also got some really big news that happened in your guys' life too this week.
Yes. So my daughter had my first grandbaby, and he is absolutely beautiful. He is the sweetest little guy. He was a big little guy. He was 8 pounds, 10 ounces. And it was a very long labor. But we got her through it. And he was born about 24 hours after they started inducing her. So we had a long visit at the hospital, but it was a good one. And he's here and he's doing well, and mom's doing well. Some first night struggles, but we figured all that out and things are going a little smoother, and I'm going up there later this afternoon to spend a night or two and give her a hand. And so I'm super stoked. I get to go have grandbaby cuddles.
Very cool. So that's exciting. I had seen Courtney about a week ago or so, over a week ago, and we all thought she was gonna go into labor that Saturday. We thought for sure she was gonna go into labor, but great the way everything worked out, and congratulations to everyone, to mom, dad, grandma, and awesome that you're gonna have this a couple of days to spend with her and the baby. So
she could use a hand, and not just with the baby, but just the little upkeeps and stuff that she hasn't been able to do for the last couple of weeks because she was so big and tired and ready for this baby to come. And it's hard to once you have a baby, the first couple of weeks, I mean, you're just in feed baby, change baby, cuddle baby, sleep. That's pretty much her life. And I kind of explained that to her because I think she was a little bit overwhelmed, like, oh, okay, now what? Like, I'm so busy doing this. How am I going to get all this other stuff done? And I said, don't panic. Just do what you're supposed to do, which is feed baby, change baby, cuddle baby, and sleep, and eat. Make sure you're eating and getting enough fluids and all of that sort of stuff. But everything else is just background noise right now. It's going to suck. Things are going to get a little chaotic, but I'll come up and give you a hand. It's okay. Relax. We got this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So great news there. And again, congratulations. But I guess we now need to get on to our top stories for cannabis news. And there is some really big top stories in cannabis news this week. Let me bring the first story up here right now. This one here, I'll start off. This one is from High Times, and cannabis has been rescheduled to Schedule 3, but don't call it legalization. So that's right, folks. Cannabis has been rescheduled from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 in the US. However, it's not just exactly as it seems. There are some nuances to it, and we're going to get into that with our next 3 stories here with respect to that. This one here, says a 12-minute read. We'll see how quickly we can get through this. We'll see if we can read most of it, because some of this stuff is going to be repeated in some of the stories, but each story does give a little bit more information as to what this actually means and what it is going to do to the industry. And research and whatnot. So the first story here we got, again, is from High Times, written by Javier Haas, published on April the 23rd. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has signed an order rescheduling FDA-approved marijuana products and state-licensed medical marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act. This is the most significant federal cannabis policy shift in decades. It is not legalization, and it does not cover recreational cannabis. Here's what's actually changed. So that's right. It only covers medical cannabis at this time. But let's get into the story here and see what it all says. The Trump administration officially moved Thursday to reclassify marijuana under federal law. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche signed an order moving FDA-approved marijuana products and state-licensed medical marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act, confirming the action in an official statement and posting directly on X. The announcement was reported by the Associated Press. There's clickable links for more information on that story in the post. Blanche outlined a 2-track approach: immediate rescheduling of FDA-approved marijuana products and state-licensed medical marijuana to Schedule 3, and a new expedited hearing process with set deadlines beginning June 29 to consider the full rescheduling of all marijuana. Here's a quote here. Under the decisive leadership of President Trump, this Department of Justice is delivering on his promise to improve American healthcare, Blanche wrote. These actions will enable more targeted, rigorous research into marijuana's safety and efficacy, expanding patients' access to treatments and empowering doctors to make better informed healthcare decisions. Story goes on here to say the move follows a December 18 executive order in which President Trump directed the Attorney General to complete the rescheduling process in the most expeditious manner possible. Trump himself complained just days ago, and we reported on that recently, during a Saturday signing for a separate psychedelics order, that federal agencies were slow walking him on cannabis. You're going to get the rescheduling done, right? Please? He said, apparently addressing a DOJ or a White House official in the Oval Office. Blanche ultimately sidestepped the existing DEA review process by relying on a provision of federal law that allows the Attorney General to determine classification for drugs the U.S. must regulate pursuant to an international treaty. Wow. So the Attorney General just sidestepped everything and said, nope, this is what we're going to do. And
yeah, and I don't understand why they're allowed to do that. I would think an order from the president is an order from the president, and that's the way it's going to be, right? But things are a little different down there, kind of like our government. I mean, we think that just because our government says, do this, that everything's going to fall in line the same way, right? But then there's all sorts of things they can do within the House and in Parliament to try and stop it, and right? So politics is messy, folks.
To say the least, right? To say the least.
So the rescheduling process has a longer history. The Biden administration launched a formal review in 2022. In 2023, Health and Human Services concluded cannabis has accepted medical use and recommended Schedule 3. The DEA process stalled. Hearings were then delayed. Nothing was finalized before Trump took office for his second term. Ricardo Baca, founder and CEO of public affairs firm Grasslands and former cannabis editor of the Denver Post, called the moment historic while cautioning against over celebration. While many Americans still don't understand what this reclassification means, because it's not full legalization or even descheduling of cannabis so that it's treated like alcohol, that doesn't mean today's move isn't historic, Baca said. Once cannabis is moved to Schedule 3, we will have witnessed the single biggest U.S. drug policy shift in our lifetime. And that's true. I mean, people go to jail for a very long time down there in the U.S. compared to like Canada, where, like they just, catch and release. But down there, it's serious, and especially in some states, right? Like you could go to jail for 10, 15 years for having an ounce of weed on you, it's no joke.
Or less.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a really big deal that, this is happening, because at least medical patients hopefully will have some rights. It'd be nice if everyone had access, but we know how that is. Yeah. So what the order actually covers and what it doesn't. This is the most important detail to understand. The rescheduling applies specifically to FDA-approved marijuana products and state-licensed marijuana. Marijuana outside those systems, including recreational cannabis, in adult use states remains classified as Schedule 1. A new administrative hearing process launching June 29th will consider the broader rescheduling of all marijuana. And then there's some little short points there that you guys can kind of go over. It just breaks down, I think, what the whole article is saying. Cannabis has been classified Schedule 1 since the early 70s, the same category as heroin and LSD, defined as having no accepted medical use. Schedule 3 substances are recognized as having medical value with moderate to low potential for dependence. The reclassification moves FDA-approved marijuana products and state-licensed medical marijuana into that category. 40 states operate medical cannabis programs that are now effectively legitimized at the federal level. Only Idaho and Kansas maintain full prohibition. Recreational cannabis in adult use states remains federally illegal under Schedule 1 pending the June 29th hearing process. So that's pretty wild. So they know it has medicinal purposes, but people who don't have a prescription, say from their doctor, who are just self-medicating because they're smart people and they know that it's good for them, are now classified recreation and can't have access to the same medication called cannabis, but we can pound the booze to them, right?
Right. All use is medicinal, whether you realize it or not.
Absolutely.
Your body is going to
benefit
what it needs from the plant.
Yeah, it's like taking a multivitamin every day. Some people do it, some people don't, but the ones who do benefit from it, and it's healthy for you. And same with cannabis. I look at it as a vitamin supplement. Our bodies need those cannabinoids for our cannabinoid system, and keeps us all functioning and balanced and all feng shui, right?
Right. Well, what was it? Dr. Bob? Robert. Oh, I can't remember his name, but he's someone in the cannabis space. He's passed on now, but he viewed cannabis as a essential nutrient for our bodies.
Yes. Yeah.
And because not only does it help fix things and regulate issues that are already in the body, it helps prevent things. So even if you are healthy, there's still benefit to utilizing cannabis
Absolutely.
in your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Anyways, I digress. The 280E question, who actually benefits? The most immediate financial impact is on IRS code 280E. Under Schedule 1 or 2, plant-touching businesses have been unable to deduct ordinary business expenses like rent, payroll, utilities from their federal taxes. State-licensed medical marijuana operators now have access to those deductions. Recreational-only operators in adult-use states are in a less certain position until the June 29 hearing process clarifies their status. Cannabis companies, including Canopy Growth, Tilray Brands, True Leaf Cannabis, True Leaf Cannabis have been cited by Reuters as likely beneficiaries of rescheduling. So big corporate is going to win out on this, which we predicted. True Leaf CEO Kim Rivers was present at the Oval Office for Trump's December executive order signing, but operators shouldn't expect overnight change, according to Mark Lewis, president of specialty payments at cannabis payments platform Loot. The biggest misconception is that rescheduling suddenly normalizes the business of cannabis, Lewis said. The financial system doesn't move at the speed of a headline. Banks, card networks, and regulators are still reacting to risk, and when risk is unclear, their default is to pull back, not lean in. Lewis noted that until legislation like the Safe Banking Act passes, cannabis businesses will continue operating with structural financial disadvantages that rescheduling alone does not fix. So that's interesting. So until further legislation actually passes, you're probably likely going to see a holdback on these companies that could take advantage, but are unsure of the risk involved.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And again, it comes down to the whole, like, the banks won't take a lot of them because they're recreation and it's federally legal. So it would be like money laundering to them in that sense. And so it really leaves them like left to, I mean, they can't even get a loan towards their business, or because they can't do any banking to do with this industry without some of these changes. Right. Just crazy. It's like the Wild West again. Yeah.
Yep.
But as we know, cash is king. Cash is king. They can't control and track cash.
Great.
Yeah. The equity question, who gets left behind? For many advocates, the financial relief for businesses is real but incomplete without addressing what the war on drugs costs the community in its communities it's targeted most aggressively. Sasha Nugent, VP of Cannabis Retail at House Workings Cannabis Co., one of the country's most prominent social equity operators, welcomed the shift, but was direct about its limits. Rescheduling doesn't undo the deeper harm caused by decades of the war on drugs. The same communities hit hardest are still working to gain fair access to this industry, and that can't be overlooked and won't change overnight. Cannabis never should have been classified the way that it was in the first place. This is a step forward, but there's still lots of work to do to get it right. And that was a direct quote by her. What comes next? Today's action is the first step in a 2-track process. The immediate rescheduling covers FDA-approved marijuana products and state-licensed medical marijuana. The broader question, whether recreational cannabis and unlicensed products also move to Schedule 3, will be addressed in a new administrative hearing process launching June 29th with set deadlines. Cannabis analyst Pablo Zunic had outlined 2 possible scenarios ahead of the announcement: a fast path where a final order drops directly into the federal registry with a 30-day challenge window, and a slower path involving 2 to 3 months of hearings. The June 29th timeline confirms the administration is talking about more deliberate routes for the broader rescheduling question. Legal challenges from opponents of cannabis reform are expected. More than 20 Republican senators signed a letter last year urging Trump to maintain current restrictions. The DEA and reform proponents also have pending interlocutory appeal concerning allegations of agency bias during the earlier review process. That proceeding remains unsolved. It's also unclear Thursday how the order might affect operations in states where licensed recreational shops also serve registered medical patients. In Washington state, 302 of 460 licensed stores have endorsements allowing them to sell tax-free cannabis to registered patients. The implications for those operations remain to be clarified. Wow. So that's really interesting, that last little part, that in Washington, medical patients don't pay tax on their medicine.
Right.
But here in Canada, medical patients still pay tax on their medicine, even though pharmaceutical prescriptions are not taxed.
Right. Hashtag make it make sense.
Right.
High Times has covered the rescheduling debate extensively since Trump's December executive order, and our publisher shares that measured view. Rescheduling cannabis would be a meaningful acknowledgement that this plant has real medical value, but let's not pretend it is the finish line, said Josh Kesselman, publisher of High Times and founder of Raw Rolling Papers. It is not legalization, it is not descheduling, and it does not automatically fix the deeper problems in federal cannabis policy. My concern is simple. If Washington gets this wrong, reform could end up favoring the biggest, best connected players while leaving small farmers, independent operators, and the people who built this movement behind. And that may happen, and if that does, it most likely will be by design. Just like we saw here.
It was here in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One note from Kesselman, he added, this plant should not be handed over to a handful of corporate gatekeepers. Any real reform has to protect access, protect small businesses, support research, and move us closer to full normalization, not create a system where the culture gets pushed aside and the benefits flow only to insiders. Rescheduling may be progress, but only if it leads to something broader, fairer, and more honest than what we have now. And you know what? I think that's a great quote to sum that article up on
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
So
sadly, I don't see small businesses being protected in any of this. As we saw here in Canada, that was something we fought for with the legalization process, was, to have those legacy companies that, have been around for 15 years before the government decided to get their grubby hands in there, to continue operating as they are, not within now you need to meet all these certain criterias and, all this craziness and have all this capital. And, they should have allowed for small businesses, lounges, cafes, all that sort of stuff to exist within our framework. But they chose the alternate route. So prayers to the U.S.
So again,
yeah.
Again, we're talking in the story about risk. A lot of the pullback in Canada probably was due to the unknown risk involved in things. But where's the risk when this already existed before? Like with cafes and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And lounges and that. So anyways, we'll be following up more on that. But we are following up on some more now here with this. This next story is coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Congressional committee directs federal agencies to study state marijuana laws. So here we go. Just from the one act of the proposed rescheduling from Schedule 1 to 3 with the medical, it's now set the ball in motion for the federal government agencies to start learning more about what the current state medical marijuana laws and that are. So they can, I guess, prepare themselves to create laws at the federal level to see what already exists. And this story is written by Tom Angel, published on April 24th. And do you mind starting this one off for us?
Yeah. So Congressional Committee directs federal agencies to study marijuana laws. A key Congressional Committee issued a directive this week for federal agencies to study the adequacy of state marijuana laws and to assess methods for preventing diversion of state legal cannabis products into jurisdictions that do not permit the use of cannabis. The House Appropriations Committee on Wednesday approved spending legislation and related reports, one of which contained the marijuana provisions. The draft report attached to the fiscal year 2027 Financial Services and General Government Bill says the panel recognized that over 20 states and territories now permit the adult use cannabis, while over 35 states and territories permit the use of cannabis for medicinal purposes. It directs the Treasury Department's Alcohol and Tobacco and Trade Bureau commonalities and novel approaches to enforcement and oversight. The committee has approved similar cannabis provisions in the past year, but it's not clear if TTB has ever filed a resulting marijuana policy report with lawmakers. Here's the full language of the current directive approved by the committee this week. Cannabis regulatory framework, the committee recognizes that over 20 states and territories now permit the adult use cannabis, while over 35 states and territories permit the use of cannabis for medicinal purposes. The committee directs TTB, in coordination with the entire department and other agencies, which may have relevant regulatory expertise, to coordinate an assessment of the adequacy of state marijuana regulatory frameworks, including commonalities and novel approaches to enforcement and oversight. The assessment shall include recommendations to improve data sharing and coordination between state and federal authorities. The department is directed brief the committee on the findings of the assessment within 1 year of enactment of this act. This year's report also includes a new cannabis related passage directing TTB and other agencies to assess ways of preventing diversion of marijuana from legal markets to state maintained prohibition.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to continue on saying it reads diversion prevention. The committee urges DOJ, in coordination with the broader department, TTB, and other agencies that may have relevant regulatory expertise, to coordinate an assessment of the most effective methods of preventing diversion of state legal cannabis product into jurisdictions that do not permit the use of cannabis. In an amendment adopted in a voice vote on Tuesday, the panel also added report language urging the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, ONDCP, to ensure that high-intensity drug trafficking areas programs get enough resources to combat illicit cannabis growing and other priorities. It says allocation of resources. The committee encourages ONDCP to ensure appropriate resources are allocated to HIDTA regions combating significant methamphetamine and weapons trafficking and illegal marijuana cultivation, to promote funding parity for intelligence training and support programs. The directive for federal agencies to study the adequacy of state cannabis laws mirrors what was included in reports attached to appropriation bills covering FSGG and commerce, justice, science, and related agencies, CGS, in several prior sessions. It is also similar to intent to a standalone bill from House FSGG Appropriations Subcommittee Chairman Dave Joyce, Republican from Ohio, co-chair of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus. That legislation would lay the groundwork for federal marijuana legalization, directing the Attorney General to create a commission charged with making recommendations on a regulatory system for cannabis. And there's a clickable link for that as well. The underlying FSGG bill, meanwhile, includes a long-standing provision to continuing to block Washington, D.C. from legalizing and regulating recreational marijuana sales. While local lawmakers have found ways to work around that policy to some extent by significantly expanding access to an existing medical marijuana program, advocates view the rider, championed by Prohibitionist Representative Andy Harris, Republican from Maryland, as a troubling infringement on DC's autonomy. You can carry on from there if you want.
Yeah, where are we here? While local lawmakers, what's that?
No, Section 809 is where
there we go.
Off.
Okay, Section 809. None of the federal funds contained in this act may be used to enact or carry out any law, rule, or regulation to legalize or otherwise reduce penalties associated with the possession, use, or distribution of any Schedule I substance under the Controlled Substances Act, or any tetrahydrocannabinols derivatives. No funds available for obligation or expenditure by the District of Columbia government under any authority may be used to enact any law, rule, or regulation to legalize or otherwise reduce penalties associated with the possession, use, distribution of any Schedule I substances under the Controlled Substances Act or any tetrahydrocannabinols derivative for recreational purposes. Republican Eleanor Holmes Norton, Democrat, decried the bill's inclusion of the cannabis rider and other that seek to interfere with local policy making. Although I am unsurprised at the number and scope of the anti-DC home rule riders in the DC appropriations bill as passed of committee, I continue to be outraged at the entitlement shown by members of Congress who represent faraway districts yet think it's appropriate to impose their policy preferences on 700,000 DC residents, said in a press release, by loading this legislation with anti-home rule riders, from stripping away reproductive health care access to meddling in our local public safety and education laws. Republican members are now dictating how DC residents live, spend their local tax dollars, and govern themselves. These members were not elected by DC residents, yet they continue to treat the district like their own playground to rule as they please, she said. This bill should serve as a stark reminder of why DC statehood is not just a political goal, but a moral imperative to end this ongoing cycle of paternalism and disenfranchisement. The White House last year called the district's move to enact local marijuana reform an example of failed policy that opened the door to disorder. President Donald Trump's budget request that he had released earlier this month similarly proposed to continue the Harris rider preventing adult use marijuana sales in DC. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat, said this week there is enough support within Congress to pass comprehensive federal marijuana reform if only Republican leaders would allow a vote I'm hopeful that we can find a legislative path forward, Jeffrey said. This does seem to exist as a bipartisan issue, particularly amongst younger generations of Republicans and the entirety of the House Democratic caucus. And we know that the votes do exist to act legislatively. Separately, bipartisan lawmakers have also filed several pieces of legislation to delay or reverse the broad federal recriminalization of hemp THC products that is now set to take effect in November. The Department of Justice on Thursday announced that it is moving forward with federal rescheduling of marijuana.
Right. So there we go. There's that. So we've got more of what this rescheduling means coming up after the break here. We're going to go to break. It is medication time. So interesting, though, the different things that have been set in motion now here, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So it is medication time, folks. So you know what that means.
And that means it's time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our amazing sponsors, and then we'll return with more articles making mainstream media news.
That's right. We'll be back in just a few minutes. In fact, 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on Ganja News Update on NOK Network. Cheers.
Hey, hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyndinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set.
Smoke Signals, Tyndinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyndinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyndinaga.
Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram.
Smoke Signals, Tyndinaga.
Hold it in, feel it in your wrist.
Smoke Signals, Tyndinaga.
Check us out in Tyndinaga. 55 Highway 49 in Tyndinaga. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at knocknetwork.com. Send us a message on our social media platforms or email us at info@noknetwork.com. Dave, award-winning cultivator for over 4 decades. Dirty Dave, prized genetics fueled by advanced nutrients, original OG organics. Dirty Dave, award-winning products available at these fine establishments. Ask your shop to carry Dirty Dave. Contact us at dirtiesdoggies@gmail.com.
Now we get back to the show.
Hey, and we're back from our medication session live here on Ganja News Updates on NOK Network.
That's right, and we have another set of stories coming at you, so let's get at it. And this next story is coming to us from MJ Biz Daily. So we've been talking about how cannabis has medical cannabis is being currently rescheduled from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. And we've been talking about what that means. It does not mean full legalization. This next story here goes on here to say, how does marijuana rescheduling affect cannabis companies now? Some operators are seeking partnerships for clinical studies, while others are developing strategies to scale their operations. And this story was published on April 23rd by Margaret Jackson. In the wake of medical cannabis official reclassification as a Schedule 3 drug under federal law on Thursday, licensed marijuana companies are making big plans. Operators told MJ Biz Daily they are prioritizing expansion across state lines, ramping up investments in research and development, and preparing to comply with evolving federal safety and quality standards. Businesses involved in cannabis research and science are seeking partnerships for clinical studies, while consumer-focused operators are developing strategies to meet anticipated federal regulations while also scaling. There's a quote here. For us, this moment means staying focused on delivering reliable products, supporting our product. I'll start that one over again. For us, this moment means staying focused on delivering reliable products, supporting our partners, and continuing to build for a more structured regulatory environment, Kim Sanchez-Real, CEO and co-founder of New Mexico-based rapid release solutions developer Azuka, told MJ Biz Daily. So very interesting. You got companies that are going to go more into the research, clinical trials, all by this. So yeah, it's not full legalization, but it's opening the door to some very much needed research.
For sure.
They need to accept.
Absolutely. I mean, not that the research hasn't been done worldwide and already kind of exists, but it seems every place wants to do their own research. So we'll see what that means. Different trials for different folks, I guess. I don't know. What should cannabis companies do after medical rescheduling? Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche's order moved FDA-approved cannabis and cannabis products by state-licensed medical marijuana operators to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act. He also scheduled a hearing on removing cannabis from the CSA entirely, which would extend the adult use cannabis for June 29th. In response, cannabis operators told MJ Biz Daily they're developing strategies to scale their operations responsibly and invest in technology and quality control systems. Completing the historic rescheduling of cannabis to Schedule 3 promises to unlock the full medical research and commercial potential of this miracle plant and support the growth of normalization of America's next great industry in the United States. George Archo, CEO and co-founder of Chicago-based MSO Verando Holding Corp, said in a statement, the focus moving ahead is to leverage the regulatory shift to drive growth, improve research, ensure consistent product safety, and position themselves as leaders in an increasingly standardized industry. Rescheduling will allow responsible medical operators to reinvest in their workforce, strengthen compliance, and continue delivering safe, tested products to millions of patients. Adam Rosenberg, chairman of the National Cannabis Industry Association, said in a statement. So that's interesting.
Right. Trump marijuana rescheduling means more preparation than celebration. Zucas Rael said the focus for operators should be on preparation, not celebration. Instead of chasing volume, operators should be reinvesting in product quality, consistency, and formats that drive margin. Oregon-based flavor house True Terpenes, which provides cannabis-based flavoring agents to vaporizer oil manufacturers and other operators, is pursuing strategies to take advantage of expanded research potential. Schedule 3's biggest unlock isn't tax, it's research. True Terpenes CEO Daniel Cook told MPBiz Daily in an email. True Terpenes will build on the research it has already conducted, including work with higher education research partners. There's a quote here, we're expanding that work to show that it's not just potency that drives strain preferences, but how a product smells, feels, and ultimately connects with the consumer, he added. Very cool. I agree with that.
Definitely.
Aspect, right?
Yeah. Does Trump's rescheduling mean immediate tax relief? Rescheduling means relief from Internal Revenue Code 280E, which forbids plant-touching businesses from making normal business deductions on their federal returns. But with Schedule 3 only applying to medical cannabis operators for now, it's not clear how this might affect the outstanding tax debt for major multi-state operators that have both medical and adult use retail outlets. The administrator encourages the Secretary of the Treasury to consider providing retroactive relief from Section 280E liability for taxable years in which a state licensee operated under a medical marijuana license. The DOJ's final rule released Thursday reads in part, nothing in this rule constitutes a determination regarding federal tax liability, and state licensees should consult with tax counsel regarding the applicability of Section 280E for their specific circumstances. Whether 280E relief will be retroactive and apply to past years is a likely question that will be argued in tax court, several observers said. So again, I think that they should do it retroactively if they were medical license holders. That only is fair and makes sense. It's only going to benefit the whole industry.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. Last little bit on this story is, how should cannabis companies invest tax savings? Ashwin Raj, CEO of wholesale platform LeafLink, sees rescheduling as the moment for companies to reinvest tax savings into expanding their market presence and scaling up their operations at a national level. We are actively working with our customers to expand operations and grow with confidence, Raj says. Cannabis decontamination company XR Pure is prioritizing investments in quality control, environmental monitoring, and advanced decontamination systems to ensure compliance with future national microbial limits and strict testing protocols. The biggest impacts to our particular business are the potential of overall expansion of the market due to allowance of interstate commerce and more standardized products, XR Pure founder and managing director Jeff Adams said. So it's interesting. Again, this is now going to spur off not only research, but scaling up businesses to operate cross state lines at a federal, national level.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. That's kind of
For
cool.
sure.
So, anyways, we're going to go off to our next story here. And this one here is coming to us from the Times Colonist. And there's been yet another raid at the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club. And the story here says Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club says about $100,000 in products seized in raid. The club sells products at higher doses and at a lower cost than what is available on the legal market, which means it can't apply to become licensed. And this story was published on April 22nd by Roxanne Egan Elliott. And I actually watched most of the live.
I did too.
And it was, not very pleasant, to say the least.
No, I mean, this organization has been around for a long time.
The longest running Cannabis Compassion Club in Canada. They've been running since 1996.
Right.
Helping save lives each and every day.
Yeah, exactly.
And some of the people that they have there helping them out are people, the same very people that they helped save their lives many years ago.
Absolutely. And again, they're a not-for-profit business helping medical patients who otherwise couldn't afford the medicine because of the way our medical system has been neglected in all of this legalization here in Canada. So giving low-cost access to medicine is what they have done for many, many years. And they're no stranger as far as the political scene the enforcement scene. I mean, they've been through this multiple times. So we'll see how this all plays out.
Yep. So provincial authorities raided the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club on Tuesday with more than 3 years after the last raid on the unlicensed nonprofit dispensary, which sells cannabis products to mostly low-income people with chronic illnesses. Club founder Ted Smith said officers with the province's community safety unit arrived Tuesday morning shortly after the shop opened and began seizing products. Victoria police officers also attended to help ensure, quote unquote, to help ensure a safe working area. And that is very typical, even out in Vancouver. I know that there's been CSU raids in Vancouver, and the Vancouver police usually kind of just come and assist just to help keep the peace. They don't actually take much of a part in the active investigation in that. They're kind of just monitoring the scene. If there's any disturbances, then they can deal with that, and then the CSU can continue doing their job. But it's I could go on saying so much about this, but I'm going to say what the story says. Okay, where is it? Yeah, so they're going through each room, every nook and cranny, trying to find where any cannabis may be stored, Smith says. He estimated that about $100,000 worth of products was seized. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. Just before noon, CSU officers carried garbage bags and black tote bins to a van outside the club. They exited the building to shouts of shame from about a dozen people outside protesting the raid. "You're taking our medicine," one woman yelled. The club sells products at higher doses and lower costs than what's available in the legal market, which means it cannot apply to become licensed because it violates Health Canada's rules that govern maximum doses. The club provides access to cannabis products to people who are low income, chronically ill, seniors, disabled, and sometimes unhoused, said Jax Kittle, a former manager. Customers are folks who are left in the margins from medical industry and who are also neglected by the legal and recreational market, who sell products that are low dose and way too high in cost, she said. The club requires proof of a medical condition, but not a prescription for cannabis, which is difficult to get, she said. We're bridging the gap in the recreational system as well as the medical system to provide medicine to patients that need it, she said. Many of the club's members suffer from cancer and complex post-traumatic stress disorder, she said. In a statement to the Time columnist on Tuesday, the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General, which oversees the Community Safety Unit, confirmed it conducted enforcement at the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and would not comment on the specific action taken by the CSU. CSU investigators carry out compliance and enforcement activities against unlicensed cannabis retailers and producers across the province under the authority of the Cannabis Control and Licensing Act, the minister said. All along, the aim has been to achieve voluntary compliance. However, we have been very clear that CSU will employ a progressive enforcement approach against those who continue to sell products and continue to produce and sell illicit and unregulated cannabis products to the public in communities across the province. The ministry said enforcement action is determined on a case-by-case basis, and it said it prioritizes action in cases where there are concerns over public safety, links to organized crime, the internal or integrity of legal market, and consideration of the province's commitment to reconciliation. Smith plans to reopen Wednesday and said he's anticipating more raids in the future, but we are being threatened quite clearly, he said. The club was fined $3.2 million in 2024 for selling cannabis without a license. It's challenged the fine, and as well as a Health Canada's medicinal marijuana rules in court with a judicial review. A date has not yet been set for a hearing. Yeah, that's crazy. Again, they're doing what the government didn't and was told needed to be done when they brought in legalization for recreational use. The whole medical system just got shoved by the wayside. Why? Because you can go and pay big dollars for your medicine at our rec stores, and to hell with everything else. And they don't understand that. I mean, rec use, as far as, say, edibles is concerned, 10 milligrams is a good place to start for someone who's not a patient who hasn't been doing this for years. But for medical patients, these people are taking sometimes 2 or 3 grams of RSO a day because they're treating cancer, or they need high dose edibles for their pain and their post-traumatic stress disorder to keep them calm. That's not available to them. So this, to me, would be a constitutional challenge because these patients' medical rights are being infringed upon by not having access to the correct doses that they need as patients. So I would think that somehow that's going to come about from all of this again. And I do believe that the Victoria Buyers Club has been to court in the past, but don't quote me on that. I thought I read that somewhere where they have done constitutional challenges, or maybe it's still before the courts. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I know they've challenged the fine. That's what this story says. But I'm not sure if they've done a constitutional challenge.
I thought I saw somewhere when they were doing those raids, and it was being posted all over Facebook. I thought for some reason they've been down this ringer, and they were actually telling the police that, like, this is going to get tossed because, we've been there, done that. We have approval from our local council. Like, it's not that they haven't tried to do their due diligence to help these people. It's just our framework isn't set up to accommodate this style of approach. Right.
So anyways, we got one last story here. It's a short one. Kim actually sent this one to me. So I think we should cover it. This one here comes to us from blackenterprise.com. Bob Marley estate sues Tilray brand cannabis company for $11.3 million. Now, this is a bit of an older story, April 8th, this year, by Candace Edwards. But as I said, Kim sent this one to me, and I said, we'll definitely do this one this week. So here we go. Tilray is accused of moving the liability for the Marley licensing payments into an empty business entity. Now, does that surprise you at all?
Nope.
That, like Tilray.
No.
Was it not? Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it not Tilray that got caught having the hidden grow rooms, or was that another company?
I'm not 100% sure, but for some reason that does kind of ring a bell. So it's quite possible.
It was one of the big guys out there that was doing it. Anyways, they hid these grow rooms from Health Canada, so they were growing illicit cannabis.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'll let you continue on with the story here.
Okay. The Bob Marley estate has filed an $11.3 million lawsuit against the global cannabis company Tilray Brand Inc., Bloomberg Law reports. Marley Green LLC claims that Tilray and its partners owe licensing royalties for the Marley Natural brand. The lawsuit filed March 27th in Delaware alleges that Tilray engaged in a scheme to defraud to avoid its financial obligations to the estate. The estate claims that after Tilray acquired Privateer Holdings, the original partner, in 2019, the company engaged in a fraudulent transfer by structuring corporate entities to shield assets. Specifically, Tilray is accused of shifting liability for the Marley licensing payments to an empty business entity that lacked the funds to pay the contractually mandated minimum royalties. That led to a breach of contract, prompting the estate to terminate the licensing deal after the unpaid balance reached nearly $13 million by 2023. While $1.7 million was recovered from a subsidiary, the estate is seeking the remaining balance. The partnership between Tilray dates back to 2014, when the Marley family partnered with Privateer Holdings to launch Marley Natural as the world's first global cannabis brand. Under the leadership of Bob Marley's daughter, Sedalia Marley, the estate manages a massive portfolio of brands, including Tough Gong, Marley Coffee, and House of Marley. Notably, Sedalia has been successful in previous suits, including a 2015 trademark infringement victory and a 2017 award against a former coffee partner. Tilray argues that its primary business entities are not parties to the original agreement following a corporate restructuring. However, the Bob Marley estate is now challenging the move as a bad faith effort to escape liability. The lawsuit is another setback as 24/7 Wall Street that as of April 2nd, the company's stock has declined by 4%. And I think I read the whole article. Sorry.
Well, that's okay. It was just a short little article. Yeah, a short little article, but interesting. And you know what? I said I wasn't 100% sure. It was not Tilray. It was CanTrust.
It was CanTrust. I knew it was one of the big ones, but I couldn't remember. And I didn't want to accuse them. Stock
deepens after company caught growing pot in unlicensed rooms.
Yeah.
Can't trust them, right?
Right. But I think a lot of them were kind of doing that because that's how they all got into the legal market. They weren't legal companies in the beginning. They were all growing weed for the legacy market through patient licenses and all sorts of nonsense. But once they went legal, they were legally bound to follow rules that they chose, I guess, not to, and they got caught.
Yeah, because some have also been caught bringing in product from the illicit market,
because and then branding it as their own
production levels. So they sourced from other sources because they got connections, obviously, right?
Yeah.
From prior, and they took advantage of that and got caught.
Yeah. Yeah. So where's the organized crime in it all? Is it in legacy or is it in legal too? Just
Right.
you know,
Right.
like at the end of the day, just because you have a license doesn't make you a legal lawbreaker. You know, like-
I will close off with this though, saying this word: patience before profits.
Absolutely. And that's how it should have been. That's what brought legalization about, was the medical industry, and it's fighting for access. And then when we got access and legalization, it was like, screw you, medical patients. We don't care what your needs are because we're getting our tax dollars this way.
Right.
And again, why is cannabis being taxed? It is medicine. You're not taxed on your oxys or your perks or anything else at the pharmacy. Why are you being taxed if you have, especially if you have a legal prescription from a doctor or what they call a recommendation? I mean, they don't really write a script saying take X amount. Right. Yeah. But if you have an authorization from a doctor to use cannabis as medicine, why is your medicine being taxed? Exactly. You need to ask your government officials here in Canada why that is. That's not right.
And I'll bring it right full circle, right back to our very beginning story here with moving of cannabis from medical cannabis in the States from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. We've had medical cannabis here in Canada for about a quarter of a century. Access to medical cannabis, but yet it's still not classified as medicine. It's an authorization to use. But yet look what just happened in the States.
Yeah.
They've admitted that there is medicinal value to cannabis, and now they're opening up the research avenues for it. Why didn't Canada do that?
Right.
Why is it still not medicine 25 years later when they know full well it is?
Absolutely. They've known long before.
We don't need more studies. We've had more than 43,000 studies just from 2018 since legalization in Canada of recreational.
Exactly.
Why is it still not medical?
Because there's no money in healthy people.
That's
my answer to this question. People, right? Yeah. So we need to make patients out of patients, right?
Right. Anyways, time has gone on. We did go over a little bit, but great stories this week. We'll bring more to you next week as well. So I just want to thank you everyone here for joining us this week here again on Ganja News Update on NOK Network, and for tuning into our video news podcast on NOK Network's Rumble. And we are on YouTube, but we lost our NOK YouTube channel. We're over on I think it's Northern Ontario. Kim, I can't remember exactly, but if you type in NOK Network or whatever, you'll probably get directed to her channel. It's got the NOK Network logo on, so you can find it that way. And we're on several other social media sites as well.
Just search around and you'll find us.
Right?
We hope you've enjoyed your update today of mainstream media coverage of cannabis news and information from around the globe.
And of course, many thanks to our sponsors for making this show possible. And thank you to my joint host, right on over here, Tara Simpson, and to you, our listeners, for joining us here each week on Education Mondays with Ganja News Update on NOK Network. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Ganja me meditation, ganja my pain. Ganja we take away my stress and strain. Ganja me meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away my stress and pain. Ganja me meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away the stress and pain. Ganja is the medication, ganja is the cure. Police and them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me essence and they make me feel pure. 100 ways to call it, we be bring it on door. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking another one around you.